Geoffrey Berman never gave a single interview while he was serving as U.S. attorney. Now he's a former U.S. attorney, and in his new book, he says that Bill Barr and Jeffrey Rosen and Rich Donoghue and Edward O'Callaghan all participated in these sustained, very improper efforts by the Justice Department to corrupt federal law enforcement and to corrupt the power of federal prosecution to help President Trump and respond to his whims and hurt his enemies. Berman also says he was removed from his office because something about his work as U.S. attorney threatened the re-election of the president in 2020. First of all, what was that? But second of all, what do we do here? What do we do with this? I mean, it is a problem for us as a country that we elected a president who wanted to use the Justice Department like this. We know that's a problem, I think. One could argue, though, that it's an even bigger problem that there were all these senior Justice Department officials who were happy to do it, who did it, who perverted not just investigations, but prosecutions and pleadings and sentences. They actually did it. A corrupt man, a corrupt leader is a tragedy. A law enforcement agency that has proven itself to be corruptible, that needs to be fixed. This has to be fixed. I will tell you, tonight, since we have been on the air, the Senate Judiciary Committee has just confirmed to us that they are launching an investigation into the claims made in Mr. Berman's book. In a letter sent to Attorney General Merrick Garland tonight, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, the #2 Senate Democrat, said, quote, "These reported claims indicate astonishing and unacceptable deviations from the department's mission to pursue impartial justice, which requires that its prosecutorial decisions be free from political influence." Senate Judiciary Committee has announced that it is launching this investigation. Senator Durbin has told the Justice Department to hand over to the Judiciary Committee all documents and communications between DOJ and the Southern District of New York related to the Michael Cohen case, the John Kerry case, and the Gregory Craig case, as detailed in Geoffrey Berman's brand new book. Joining us now is Geoffrey Berman, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York from 2018 to 2020, when he was forced out by former Attorney General Bill Barr, and he refused to resign. His new book is Holding the Line: Inside the Nation's Preeminent U.S. Attorney's Office and Its Battle with the Trump Justice Department. Mr. Berman, the book comes out tomorrow. I really appreciate you being here tonight to talk with us about it. This is a lot.
Thank you for having me.
First, let me just ask you, I've read the book closely, backwards and forwards, as have members of my staff, in helping me prepare to talk with you tonight. But I readily admit that I may have gotten some of these things wrong as I tried to sum them up. Is there anything that I said that struck you as wrong or misguided?
No, it was great. All of it very accurate.
I have to ask you about this breaking news first. Senator Dick Durbin, he chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, he's the #2 senator. He's written to the Justice Department tonight and announced that the Judiciary Committee is launching a formal investigation. He's asked the department to hand over its documents and communications around these episodes that you describe. Do you believe that there will be documentation, that these communications will be noted in some way, that the department can provide to the Judiciary Committee so they can investigate these allegations?
Oh, I'm sure there are documents that are going to be available. Rachel, my book, as you know, is all about transparency. I wanted people to understand the full scope of the outrageous and improper political interference by Trump's Justice Department in the cases of the Southern District of New York. It demonstrates what Trump is capable of and what he's likely to do, and it also provides a frontline view of just how vulnerable our justice system is. And so the book is about transparency, and I welcome this investigation, this congressional investigation, because I think a light has to be thrown on this kind of outrageous conduct that really corrupted the Department of Justice and turned it into a political instrument for the president.
Some of this conduct you are describing for the first time in this book, but some of this you, for lack of a better phrase, squawked about at the time that they forced you out as U.S. attorney. You put out this remarkable press release at the time. You insisted that you would not resign, that when Bill Barr said you had resigned, that he was lying about that. It was a remarkable confrontation and sort of a stand-up moment on your part. I remember it unfolding late at night one Friday night, the summer of 2020, and I was just agog watching it happen in real time.
Well,
But
I knew.
You said, sorry, go ahead.
I knew at the time that if Barr got me out the way he wanted to, he would put an outsider in that office who he trusted, and our sensitive investigations that were going on would have been jeopardized. And so, I was very noisy. I told the entire country what I thought Barr was doing and how he crossed the line. And I think because of that very noisy exit, as you said, Audrey Strauss took over as acting U.S. attorney, and she's a person of the highest integrity and an icon of the New York bar.
When you put out that press release, when you pushed back in that noisy way, you said, I'm quoting from it here, "Our investigations will move forward without delay or interruption. I intend to ensure that this office's important cases continue unimpeded." And you explain in the book that you chose those words carefully because they reference the actual language of the criminal statute on obstruction of justice. I have to ask, the implication of that explanation in your book is that it's possible that you believed it was sort of a crime, what happened to your office, that what Trump appointees were trying to do to SDNY was criminal obstruction of justice. Is that the implication that you are raising here?
Well, I haven't focused on whether it's a crime or not, but I can tell you it violated all the norms and traditions of the Department of Justice, which is supposed to be independent from politics. And Trump turned the department into his own personal law firm. He put in people who would do his bidding, and they would, target Trump's political enemies and assist Trump's friends. And it was a disgrace. And that's what I kind of detail in the book, several instances of that.
You say throughout the book how you tried to stay and fight. To keep SDNY from being corrupted, from the kind of hostile takeover that you describe having taken place in another very preeminent, very eminent U.S. Attorney's office. You have a few different times you say variations of "I didn't want to get fired" and replaced by somebody who would be completely compliant, as you just mentioned. But I do have to ask you why. When they made you take the individual one language out of the Cohen information, when they told you to prosecute John Kerry or they told you to prosecute Greg Craig and do it before the election, why didn't we hear this from you then? Or if you couldn't do it then while you were still holding the job, why didn't we hear it from you when you were fired?
Well, there are rules, laws, and statutes and regulations that prohibit DOJ employees and former employees from talking about ongoing cases and investigations, as well as internal conversations relating to those cases. And we are bound by that. And so, for example, when I gave congressional testimony after I got fired, and I went to the ethics office of the Southern District of New York and the ethics office at Main Justice, and I said, what can I talk about? Because there were ongoing investigations that were politically sensitive at the time I got fired. And Barr knew about them. And, can I talk about it? And the ruling that came down, and I respected it, is that, you can't talk about any ongoing investigations because they might be jeopardized. You can't talk about any other cases that went on. You can't even talk about the conversations that you had with other Department of Justice employees, except for the 2 days before you got fired. You can talk about Bill Barr. And that's the authority I had when I went into my congressional testimony. And quite frankly, it was frustrating because I couldn't tell the whole story, and the whole story needed to be told. And that's the reason I wrote the book. And the book was put through pre-publication review by the Department of Justice. I followed all the rules still. I've never violated an internal DOJ rule or statute. To this day, I'm in compliance with every rule and statute. The book has been entirely vetted by the Department of Justice, and I've gotten permission to publish it. And that's, I think, why you don't hear more Department of Justice people talking about the cases they're working on, the investigations, conversations with other people, because they're restricted from doing so. And if they're to behave in an ethical manner, they can't do so.
You do say towards the very end of the book something that resonates very loudly. You say that you believe the reason you were forced out was based in politics. The timing 5 months before the election was not an accident. And you say that you believe Barr forced you out of that job at SDNY because he no doubt believed that by removing me, he could eliminate a threat to Trump's reelection. How was your work as U.S. Attorney a threat to Trump's reelection? Well,
at the time I was fired, the Southern District of New York was working on a couple politically sensitive cases. One of those cases is the Steve Bannon We Build the Wall case. And we were very close to indicting that case around the time I got fired, and Barr knew about the case. And as you know, that case was indicted by the Southern District of New York, by Audrey Strauss, who took over as acting U.S. Attorney after I was fired. And she brought that prosecution. And then, President Trump pardoned Steve Bannon, which was an outrageous pardon. But that's one of the cases that we were investigating, and we were very close to indicting. And the other case was the Ukraine investigations arising out of the Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman indictments. And that was something that we had been investigating for quite a while, and we continued to investigate for quite a while. And both of them were very sensitive.
Geoffrey Berman, former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, author of the very, very newsy new book, Holding the Line Inside the Nation's Preeminent U.S. Attorney's Office and Its Battle with the Trump Justice Department. Sir, thank you for being noisy when it counted. Thank you for relaying what you've done now. I imagine we're about to start a whole new chapter in terms of accountability here at the Justice Department, which you served. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
Good luck.
you.